Hello, my name is Kaelyn Cobos, and today I will be presenting open source. Did you know that the global software market is worth close to $300 billion, with open source software growing at an average yearly rate of 22%? For some, it may be hard to wrap our heads around what exactly defines the term open source programming. To put it simply, it is a software that can be manipulated or improved by anyone with the permission of its creator. The designer writes the original algorithms that will direct a computer to perform a specific task. From there, that'll make the source code available to either other engineers or computer technicians via the web. But there's still so much to know about open source software. So in this presentation, I will explain the role of the open source initiative, as well as address the advantages and disadvantages of open source software. What is the Open Source Initiative? The Open Source Initiative is a nonprofit corporation dedicated to promoting the use of open source software in the commercial world. Some functions of the OSI is that it maintains and promotes the open source definition, as well as offers the OSI Certified Open Source Software Certification Mark-in program. What is the open source definition? Based on the Debian Free Software Guidelines, the open source definition acts as a bill of rights to engineers and computer users that defines the policies that a software must have in order to be certified as open source software. In order to be labeled as an open source software, a product must possess the following qualities. The holder of the license of the source code cannot collect royalties. The distributed program must make the source code accessible to the user. The author must allow modifications of the work. No person, group, field, or endeavor can be denied access to the program. The rights attached to the program must not depend on the programs being part of a particular software distribution, and the licensed software cannot place restrictions on other software that is distributed with it. Now we're going to talk about some advantages to open source software. The first one is quality. Whereas before one could be using a software package created by a handful of developers, with open source software we can now have software packages created by thousands of developers. Open source software gets closest to what users want because those users can have a hand in making it so. The second advantage is customizability. Business users can take a piece of open source software and tweak it to suit their needs. The third advantage is that there's a variety of support options. Open source software is free, and so is a web of support serving each piece of software. Most distributions of open source software possess online communities with excellent documentation, mailing lists, news groups, and even live support chat. If businesses want an extra guarantee, of paid, they can go look into paid support. The most important advantage of open source software is its cost. Open source software is often developed through community forums and collaboratives, showing that the quality of the product won't be correlated with the price. Now we'll be talking about the disadvantages to open source software. The first is that there is no guarantee of updates. Since most open source software is free, there's no promise that someone will update it at the speed or quality you desire. It is even possible to get stuck with the same software version for years without an official update. The second disadvantage is that there's less support accessible if things were to go bad with the software, because open source software tends to rely on the community of the user to address and fix the glitches. There's also a lower security of the software. While many believe that having an open system is beneficiary, it also means that malicious users can potentially access and exploit such vulnerabilities. So it'll be the responsibility of the user to handle unless they wish to pay for external support. The last disadvantage is that users will bear a lot more ownership than if the software was under proper proprietary licenses. This includes initiation of upgrades, enhancements, configuration, and support of software. In this presentation, I explain the role of the Open Source Initiative, as well as address the advantages and disadvantages of open source software. While many argue over the benefits and drawbacks of open source software, it is important to note that it has the potential to benefit programmers and non-programmers alike. Thank you.